Hello, everyone. It is what some people call spooky season. Anyway, it's October, as we know, Halloween, where the veil is thinner and we experience, or the earth experience, more of its dark side, literally and not so literally. And sometimes in this human form, we experience these extra sensory experiences that we call spirit or ghost. We maybe see something, we hear something, we may smell something that others may not. And sometimes people call that spookism or our imagination, or some people are crazy. But spirit is real. And sometimes we are in touch with it, and some of us become more in touch with it during this time of the year, October, November, because the earth is going through her darker side, or its darker side as well. So what I wanted to talk about, since I love perfumes and my senses are pretty good, my hearing is pretty good. Sometimes I hear things that others may not hear. I'm talking about how I've always had ringing in the ears, and they have different frequencies and vibrations, but that's not what I wanted to talk about today. And sometimes I see things or sense things as well. But what I want to talk about, since I love perfume so much, is my senses. About 20 years ago, I lost my sense of smell because I had got the flu and the flu shot. And so I got the flu and I was in bed, which I'm never, even back then, I was never sick. But I was in bed for like 3 or 4 days. And finally, instead of me being worried about being sick, I was, I had little kids at the time. I had a house full of kids. I was going to school. I had a husband. I had all those things at the time. I had so much to do, but I was in the bed for like 3 or 4 days. Finally, I was good enough to get out of the bed, and I was like, I could not smell anything. Long story short, I had went to the doctor because it was like 6 months and I still didn't have my sense of smell back. They tested, make sure I didn't have tumors or something going on. I don't know. But anyway, 2-3 years, I didn't get my smell back until maybe like 2 or 3 years, I meant to say. But anyway, after that, and even before that as well, I would have experience as well. I would smell smoke. And I spoke to one of my aunts who about it, and she said, well, that's your grandfather. He smoked a cigarette and this, that, and the other. This was before I lost my sense of smell. And I was like, and she said she would, smell his cigar as well. And I said, well, it smells more like a cigarette. But anyway, after this experience of losing my sense of smell, one of the first things I started to smell was this strong cigarette smell. And I was like, wow, even my eyes started tearing. I was like, well, one of my teenagers, is they starting to smoke, or we have neighbors that's smoking? And it was none of those things. Nobody was smoking, but it was so realistic. And it didn't happen all the time. It was just intermittent. I could be reading, I could be cooking, I could be at work, I can be, it's just intermittent time. So it's no one specific thing that caused me to get this heavy smoke. I mean, my eyes would tear up like I was in a smoke room that was closed. And then it would eventually fade away. And that happened. And now it doesn't happen as much as it used to. Once in a while, maybe once or twice a year now, but it used to happen a lot. And what I feel the most pleasure in experiencing is what some people call these hallucination of smells, is when I smell perfumes that I've never smelled. And I haven't smelled all the perfumes of the world, but I couldn't imagine that I would smell anything like this. But one day I opened my front door, I think it was maybe summer or spring, and I smelled this, maybe like the best Bulgarian rose flower. Is like a deep, almost mahogany this so rich smelling rose smell like I have never smelled before. I was like, wow. And I know I didn't have it on. And then I went down my doorstep to try to figure out where it was coming from, and it faded away. And I went back, to my door, and it was gone. So I mentioned it to an elder about it, and it's like, well, that's the devil's flower. I was like, oh my goodness, the devil's flower. But I experienced that a few other times since then, off and on. And it's usually when I open my door, strangely. And it's been maybe a couple of years now, or maybe a year or two since I've smelled it. I haven't had that visit lately. And another experience is once in a while, maybe for the last 4 years, I think during the winter time, I will smell this real strong lime smell. And I was like, well, did somebody do some yard work or something? Or is my neighbor washing some clothes? Or did I wash some clothes? And you can, sometimes when you put like a fabric softener in with your dryer, you smell that, but that wasn't that kind of smell. But I would smell this strong, nothing like I've ever smelled before, lime scent, like a creamy, freshly made, the richest lime meringue pie ever. I was like, where is this smell coming from? And I smelled it intermittently for about a month. And I was like, I never knew where that smell was coming from. And then again, what made me want to do this video today, even though I've probably had some more experiences with olfactory, what some people call hallucinations, was this morning. My dog Seth, he was moaning because he knew I was awake, wanting to go outside. So I was like, it was like 6:30, 7 o'clock, something like that. I was like, okay. It was still dark, but light enough. And I'm not really a scary type of person, even though I probably should be, but I'm not. I was like, well, we're going to go outside. So I let him outside, and he goes around. He's not spooked easy, but if he feels something or someone is around that shouldn't be, he notices it and he alerts me. But none of that. So I go in the back in a certain spot, and I start talking to my trees, and it was a nice breeze. It's windy today, and it was just beautiful outside. All of a sudden, I smelled this beautiful jasmine scent. It was just gorgeous. And I was like, wow, where is that coming from? It was just gorgeous. There was nobody out but me and Seth, And so I start walking further, walking around, and then it goes away. But when I come back to that same spot that I was at, that smell comes back, and I feel like this warm envelope feeling as I'm standing there. I was like, where is that smell coming from? I said, this reminds me of my olfactory hallucinations that I used to have. I was like, is that some spirit visiting me? I'm just still talking out loud and talking to the trees, and it just stayed there, And I moved, and it wasn't nowhere else. I moved around, but I came back in the same spot, and I smelled it. And, I didn't question anymore. I just enjoyed that beautiful. It was just gorgeous scents, nothing like I've smelled before. And me and Seth finished whatever we was doing, and we just came in. But anyway, I just wanted to come forth since it's spooky season, and just to remind us of the spirit world that is definitely present, but are we keen enough to use our senses to experience it? Anyway, thanks for visiting the city. Until next time, take care.